welcome to this vlog. It is Monday, July the 6th. I am working from home on my internship today. Our office got closed for a COVID-19 disinfection. So I am working remotely today and reading The Shadow of the Wind. I have about 18 pages left and things are all coming to a head, you know. Tragedy is about to strike. So I'm hoping to finish this book today. I am also currently reading Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman and Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. So I just got my lunch break for remote interning and I think it's almost 1. It's 13 minutes to 1. So I'm going to try to go ahead and finish up The Shadow of the Wind. Going to make some lunch and then I have to be back at my computer for another meeting at 2. And then I think tonight I will sit down with you and give my final thoughts on The Shadow of the Wind. Welcome to Tuesday. It is about 10 a.m. and I am working from home for my internship this week, which, fingers crossed, will be my last week of my internship because someone in our office contracted COVID-19 because they went to the beach and did not social distance. So our office is closed for the next 2 weeks and is being disinfected. So I am working from home, watching documentaries that my internship supervisor has recommended to me and doing what remote work I can without the physical materials in the office. Hopefully by the end of this week, I'll be finished with my internship hours and I can move on to other fun activities like studying for the GRE and finishing my major research project and making videos for this channel. So I wanted to go ahead and let you know I don't have any reading updates for today because last night I spent all night working on the reading vlog that goes up tomorrow on the 7th. The 7th? What's today? Excuse me. The vlog that goes up tomorrow on the 8th. But I wanted to go ahead and give you my review final thoughts on The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I finally wrote out my review yesterday in my handy dandy little reading journal, and I'm going to give you my Copal ratings as well as just some thoughts that I haven't yet shared. I feel like I talked pretty much at length in my last vlog about the main issue that I had with this book, which was the abuse of pretty much every female character that's present in the novel. At one point or another, every woman in the novel that I can think of is physically abused by someone, a man in her life. And so I had some issues with that just being used as a cheap plot device. I also talked about a narrative tool that I really liked in the last vlog when Daniel, who is investigating the life of this mysterious author named Julian Carax, is interviewing people and a specific person has a lot to share. Instead of writing that in a dialogue form, a dialogue storytelling form, the author will simply put it into italics and narrate from that person's perspective or from a third person omniscient perspective, which in the third person omniscient perspective, that ended up giving us a lot more information than probably that person who Daniel was interviewing even had, which was really cool because then we almost knew more than Daniel did, but the mystery was still hard to figure out and we still figured it out as he did. But it made it easier to read and easier to consume. Those were sort of info dumpy sections, but the way that it was done and the way the book was set up, it set a precedent for those info dumpy sections because you're literally trying to learn about the intricate private lives of all of these different people to see if you can figure out what happened to this one specific person that they're all connected to. So I didn't really mind the info dumpy nature of those sections. I actually really enjoyed it and enjoyed reading the narrative of whoever's life it was that they were narrating. So in the end, I rated The Shadow of the Wind a 3.5 to 4 star. The Copal rating system spit out a 4 star, but I feel like in my heart, it's a 3.5. I'm trying to be more critical as I move forward with my star ratings and my point ratings as I'm reading books because I could have a major issue with a book and still give it like 4.5 stars because I enjoyed my experience reading it and because that issue didn't detract from it. So I want to make sure that I am truly assessing the quality of the work that I'm reading and not getting carried away by my feelings about it. Now, that being said, reading is a very emotional activity and I am an emotional person. And so I have feelings about books that may or may not be the best book in the world. For example, Shadowhunter series. I have a lot of feelings about the Shadowhunter series, and so when I reread The Infernal Devices, I gave every single one of those books 5 stars. If I was reading those books critically, I might give them a different rating, I don't know, but because they caused such emotion in me and they're so nostalgic for me and such emotional reads, I gave them 5 stars just because I loved the experience of it. But with a book like this that is new to me, it's not nostalgic, I want to make sure that I am truly representing the quality of this work in my reviews. So that's why I'm sitting between a 3.5 and a 4. I almost kind of want to say 3.75, which actually, yeah, I'm gonna give this book, like, for sure a 3.75 stars. You heard it here first, folks. That's not even what's written in my reading journal. I realized when I was writing this review yesterday that it took me 7 days to read this book. I was really surprised because it felt like I didn't do very much reading, but it took me a long time to get through it. And I think it's because the book itself was very heavy. Obviously, physical and sexual abuse of women is a trigger warning. The main violence that is exhibited towards male characters is a fist fight in the street sort of violence. The beginning was very intriguing and set the atmosphere very well. I really enjoyed sort of getting to know the beginnings of the world and what Daniel's world looks like. And then the end picked up and we started to learn all the information that we needed to know back to back. And then there was the climax and then the ending, which was not anywhere near what I expected. So once that mystery picked up at the end and we started learning all the things that we needed to know, the book got a lot better. It got a lot more exciting because it was moving quicker. Whereas in the middle, we're just learning all of these terrible things about these terrible people. It's really hard to pick up a book if you know that every time you pick it up, you're going to learn something new that is worse than the last thing that you learned. Where I ended up taking points off for that unnecessary cheap plot device of female abuse was in the character section. So I gave characters a 6. I really enjoyed, like I have said in my other vlog, the complexities of the characters, but I found major issue with the fact that Zephon used female abuse as pretty much a cheap plot device. It is something that breaks people, breaks families, breaks women, breaks their children, breaks the people who love them. And I just wish that it hadn't been used as frivolously as it was. He used it to fuel pain and darkness and angst in many situations in the book, and I just wish that he had chosen a more creative avenue in most of those instances to create the pain and darkness that he needed. One thing that I really enjoyed was a parallel character arc between Daniel and another character in the book. Obviously, I won't tell you who it is, and you don't really know that this character arc, this parallel character arc exists until the very end, but that was part of the mystery at the end coming together that made it so intriguing and so exciting and so interesting to read. I gave Atmosphere an 8. When I first started thinking about Atmosphere, I didn't really think that there was much atmosphere to speak of, but then as I began contemplating it more, I realized that in every situation, in every heart, in every scene in this novel, there is a heavy, taut sort of sadness spread and stretched and placed on top of whatever is going on. Whether that had to do with the wartime setting of the novel, or whether that was something that was special to Barcelona, or whether it was just something that all of the characters in the novel shared, I don't know. I think it's probably the lattermost. It really created an atmosphere that made it hard to read at some points, but this sadness was spread thick over everything that happened in the novel, especially since, you know, you open the first 2 pages of the book and you find out that your main character is 10 years old and his mother is dead. That that is one of the first things that you learn, and that sort of sets the tone for the rest of the novel. I gave writing a 7. It was good. It wasn't my favorite writing that I've ever read. It didn't really strike any chords in my heart necessarily, like maybe the writing of Oscar Wilde does, or Charles Dickens. It was translated from Spanish originally, which informed how I read it, because that lost in translation, no matter how good a translation is, there will be a lost in translation type of element there. I gave the plot an 8, just because the middle sagged so heavily for me. I had some issues keeping track of the mystery, where Daniel was going and why he knows what he knows and where it came from and what the connection is between the person he just talked to and the person he's about to talk to. And so for that reason, I gave logic a 7, just because everything made sense in the end, but it ended up that it was hard to follow in the middle part. But the beginning was really good, like I said, and I really enjoyed the ending. It took a turn in the last 100 pages and then took another really sharp turn in the last 3 pages, and so I really ended up loving the way that it ended. Intrigue was 8. It was very intriguing. I did guess the mystery in the end, just because there was one person that Daniel was really convinced was the man who was destroying all the novels, and when it became apparent for certain reasons that that man could not be the person who was destroying all of the books, I thought that there was only really other one person that it could be, and it ended up being that individual. But because of the way this book was written, that really didn't detract from my experience reading it and reading the ending and finding out what happens to Daniel at the end. Logic, like I said, was 7, and enjoyment was also 7. I gave enjoyment a 7 because the beginning and the end were both really great, and the middle was a bit hard to get through, but obviously the middle was good enough and exciting enough that I didn't DNF the book. I read it all the way through and everything made sense eventually. So those are all my thoughts on The Shadow of the Wind in finality. That is my first book of the month finished, which is very exciting. I don't know what I'm going to pick up next. I'm sort of in the mood for something a bit lighter, and nothing on my TBR is really very light or easy to read, so I might go for something else in my bookshelf that I haven't read that I can just like whip through really quickly and then get back to my TBR. I'm thinking that Jade Dragon Mountain might be my next read. That or Great Expectations, or maybe Mansfield Park. They're all options. But for now, I'm going to go do my internship work, get as many hours in as I can today, and I will see you guys later. Hello, it is Wednesday morning, and I am here out in a waiting area courtyard at my mom's doctor's office. She's having an exam today that's going to take like 2 to 3 hours, so I'm here waiting, and she can't drive afterwards, and it probably wouldn't be safe to drive before. So I am here waiting in this lovely courtyard for a couple of hours. I have a thermos full of coffee. I have my mask here ready if someone comes out here to also sit. I'm gonna put it on, and I brought some books with me. So the first that I brought is Leaves of Grass, obviously, because I've been reading this for a couple of weeks now, and I'm hoping to make some good progress on this poem, on the poem I Celebrate Myself Today, which is like a 40-page poem that I'm currently in the middle of. And then The Shadow of the Wind was the book that I just recently finished, which was a bit heavy and a little hard to get through, and it kind of wore me out a little bit. So I decided to deviate from my TBR that I've set and read something short and fun that was in my bookshelf that I haven't read or that I'm wanting to reread, and that is Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. I've been wanting to reread the Chronicles of Narnia series because I haven't read it since I was very little, and so I have reread The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and watched the movie recently. I think the editions that we have are published in chronological publishing order instead of the chronology of the world itself. So the next book, it's numbered number 2, is Prince Caspian. So maybe I can get through all of this today while I'm sitting right here. That would be super fun. And then I'll pick out another read tonight. If not, I'll just try to finish this tonight because It's very short and it's just over 200 pages. So I should be able to get that done by the end of the day today at the very least, if not while I'm sitting right here. So I'm going to go and get to reading and drinking my thermos full of coffee. For the first time in a long time, I have finished a book in a single day. I have never done that very frequently, and I definitely haven't done it recently, but today I read the entirety of Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. Like I mentioned this morning, after The Shadow of the Wind, I sort of wanted something a bit lighter, something that I could just get through quickly. So I read some Leaves of Grass this morning, and then I've basically spent all day reading this. This book is about 216 pages, and it is the story set in Narnia, the world created by C.S. Lewis, in which Prince Caspian, who is a good-hearted young prince, conquers the evil Telmarines and takes Narnia back into what it used to be, into old Narnia, which is a land that is populated mainly by talking animals and fawns and centaurs and things like that. Pretty sure I'm gonna give it 5 stars, if not 4.5. I mean, it's fantastic. I love Lewis's writing. It's so easy to get through. They're children's books, but I think they're children's books, actually. I'm not sure whether he intended them for children, but I think he was also a believer that magic is for people of all ages, and you should never stop reading children's books. So it's very magical, very fantastical, very wonderful, very heartwarming, and also very meaningful. There's a lot of allegory and biblical allusions in C.S. Lewis's works, which I love. I love being able to make those ties. I think this is more of not an entire allegory, but just a story within Narnia that maybe has some theological ties and theological allusions and allegories that are smaller, but I don't think this story itself is one big allegory like The Magician's Nephew and The Last Battle are. These are my mom's very, very old box set editions. I'll show you the box. Actually, these are old, well-loved editions, and she passed these off to me when I bought her some new editions because for Christmas a few years ago, because this is one of her all-time favorite reads, and she just reads them over and over and over again. So I wanted to get her some new ones for Christmas a few years ago, so I did. But the beginning of each chapter has a tiny little illustration at the top. And it's very small, easy to hold in your hand, easy to just like flip straight through and read really quickly. This is really what I needed today. It was so lovely to read. I love the way that Lewis tells stories like a storybook. He doesn't always necessarily stick to the rule of show, not tell. There are a lot of things that he will just tell you, like Lucy was feeling so-and-so when she saw this, which actually I tend to like. I don't need to know every single move that happens in a battle scene. I don't need to know a description of every single step that someone takes on a journey. I actually like it when authors, especially in older works, and I like it in Tolkien as well, when they will just tell you what you need to know, and then describe the things that they feel need to be described in more detail. So that's something I don't mind at all, the telling instead of showing. It gives it very much of a storybook feel, which I really appreciate. The light is changing, the sun is going behind the clouds. Sorry about that. I may have a more in-depth discussion later this week. I may not, just because there's not much to dig into in this book, because it is the second book following The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe without spoilers, but am just saying that I loved it. I loved the writing, I love the fantasy, I love the magic. It's really interesting to see the things that C.S. Lewis decides to include. Like, he includes like hags and werewolves and centaurs and dwarves, but he chooses not to include some other traditional fantasy characters and creatures as well. So that is about all I really have to say, and I am going to go have dinner, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, I am back to talk to y'all again for a moment. I had dinner with my family, and for the past hour I have been preparing my presentation for my academics club this week. 3 of my friends and I meet weekly on Skype and discuss art, literature, philosophy, music, things like that. So each of us has a discipline specialty. Mine is art history. My friend Danielle, who you saw in last week's vlog, hers is music. She's actually a music major. And our 2 other friends, Lily and Caroline of Cherry Chapters, the YouTube channel, are English majors. And Caroline talks about literature, theology, and history, and sort of sticks to that side of the discipline. And then Lily talks mainly about poetry and literature and philosophy, but they sort of switch back and forth, and they're flexible with that. But Danielle and I are pretty set. She does music and I do art history. I took AP art history my senior year, and that was like my favorite class of my entire school experience so far. I think maybe even more than my psychology classes. Don't tell my professors I said that. So I'm referencing my notes that I made on my computer, so if you can see that in the frame, or you can see the reflection on my face, that's why. But this week our theme is honor, which is chosen by Lily, and I wanted to talk about Japanese woodblock prints because they're one of my favorite types of art, but I figured I had to get there from honor somehow. So first I'm going to talk about the 8 virtues of Bushido, which are the collective morality codes of the samurai. And then I'm going to talk about seppuku, which is one of the tenets or practices of Bushido virtue. And then I'm going to move into the form and creation of Japanese woodblock prints to sort of connect honor to woodblock prints. I sort of went along that way. Last week we talked a lot about John Milton because we were talking about the fall in Genesis, and I talked about Paul Fryer's Morning Star parentheses Lucifer art installation in the Holy Trinity Church in Westminster, which is one of my new favorite sculptures and also one of my new favorite artists. I will link a website or 2 where you can research Paul Fryer in the description. He is a great artist. I would like to know if y'all would want to see maybe a video every couple of months where I talk about something to do with art history. I could call it like, I don't know, art history cornered or something stupid like that. It's not necessarily my college degree or what this channel is about, which is reading, but it is a humanities discipline and it is a very academic discipline. So I would like to know if y'all would like to see videos like that. They'd probably be on the shorter side unless there was a lot that I wanted to talk about. I think art history is a really cool thing, and it's something that definitely gets shoved to like maybe half of a class period in the course of a semester or in the course of a year in a typical history class. And honestly, art history and social history are the parts of history that actually interest me. That's why I love it so much, because it's the most human part of history, I think. I've actually been talking for a while about not the things that I planned to talk about when I sat down to film this clip, but I chose my next read while I was doing that research on the Bushido virtues and on the Japanese woodblock prints. So I couldn't decide between Great Expectations by Charles Dickens and Jade, Dragon Mountain by Elsa Hart. I felt it in my soul that I needed to pick up this next, and I was pretty sure that I was going to, but I wasn't sure. I was like 80, like maybe 75 or 80%. I'm going to go start reading Jade, Dragon Mountain. I'm hoping to learn a lot of things and also be entertained. Let me quickly read you the description from the back of the book. On the mountainous border of China and Tibet in 1708, a detective must learn what a killer already knows. The empires rise and fall on the strength of the stories they tell. Li Du was an imperial librarian. Now he is in exile, on his way out of the country forever. Arriving in Dian, the last Chinese town before the Tibetan border, he is surprised to find it teeming with travelers, soldiers, and merchants. All have come for a spectacle unprecedented in this remote province, an eclipse of the sun commanded by the emperor himself. When a Jesuit astronomer is found murdered in the home of the local magistrate, blame is hastily placed on Tibetan bandits. But Li Du knows that everyone has secrets. The ambitious magistrate, the powerful consort, the bitter servant, the irreproachable secretary, the East India Company merchant, the nervous missionary, and the traveling storyteller who can't keep his own story straight. Beyond the sloping roofs and festival banners, Li Du can see the mountain pass that will take him out of China forever. He must choose whether to leave and embrace his exile or to stay, and investigate a murder that the town of Dian seems all too willing to forget.
Interesting moral dilemma. Like, I can see both sides so clearly, and I agree with both sides so clearly, and I'm like right down the middle. I don't know. If you were to be sacrificing your life, that's like the greatest gift that you can give somebody is your entire life. Valhalla, is that how you pronounce it? Norse mythology? Yeah. Only go there if you die in battle. That's it.
We're still basically living the Greek life of thinking that autonomy and what I want for myself is the most important thing over anything else, which I feel like that was trendy with the Greeks and the Romans, and then it sort of went out of vogue for a while.
Maybe that's why it was pushed so heavily, or is pushed so heavily, because you're not going to be alive to reap the rewards if there are rewards for your sacrifice.
It is Thursday afternoon. It just turned 3 p.m., which means it's the end of my self-scheduled internship workday. So I am going to go exercise first thing. I'm cooking dinner for my family tonight, which is going to be one of my tasks for the rest of the summer once my internship is done. It's not really safe for me to get a job outside of the house right now because I am in one of the cities where no one is doing their due diligence, and so our COVID-19 cases are growing exponentially by the day. So one of my jobs around the house for the rest of the summer until I go back to college is going to be cooking dinner for my family every night, and I think that's starting for good pretty much tonight, which is really exciting because I love cooking. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be cooking, but maybe I'll share here and there for the rest of the summer what I'm making with you guys. I have not read any more since we spoke last. I read the prologue to Jade Dragon Mountain, so I'm going to go exercise, listen to my audiobook, which is Stamped from the Beginning by Dr. Kendi. I'm almost finished with it. It just keeps getting better. It's so good. I will speak to y'all again soon. It is a little bit later in the day than I would like to be starting vlogging today, but you know, sometimes things just happen. So I didn't do very much today, but I did go grocery shopping with my mom, where I got this kombucha that I am drinking. I'm going to start making my own kombucha, but I have to ferment my own SCOBY first, and so I'm going to get what I need for that and then start doing that. So I may document that process in some of these vlogs, but I wanted to give a couple of quick reading updates. But first I'm gonna take a sip of kombucha. Yesterday, I actually finished Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America by Ibram X. Kendi. There's no way it can't be rated 5 stars. It was so incredible. I keep trying to talk about it with people, and there's something so genius in the way that Kendi presents the information that makes it so that when I try to recount it for people I'm speaking to, I can't represent it adequately. So if you are interested in anti-racist texts, if you're interested in talking about racist ideas and racism and where it was born and how it continues to keep getting oxygen, or if you're not interested in those things, I think you should read it anyway. The audiobook is very long, but the book in terms of print is only about 400 pages, I think. So it's nothing dramatically bigger than anything any of us really read on the regular. I don't know how to give a full review on it, so I'm just going to tell you that I'm giving it 5 stars, and I'll talk about it maybe a little more in my July wrap-up when I have some more intelligent things to say. I am also currently reading Jade, Jagged Mountain. I started this Wednesday night. Today's Friday. I don't know if I said that. I probably typed it on the screen so you know, but today's Friday. I'm reading Jade, Jagged Mountain. I'm only 83 pages into Jade, Jagged Mountain. So far, I am really, really enjoying this book. There is something about the writing that I really, really love that I can't necessarily put my finger on, but I will try to so that I can express it. I'm really, really enjoying the atmosphere as well. The atmosphere of Imperial China in the beginning of the 1700s. There's a lot of history that they are mentioning and talking about, which I have a marginal grasp of, mainly from my art history studies, really. There's a lot of talk politically and socially about the people just outside of the Chinese border in Tibet, the Khampa people, and I think that they are used as a scapegoat and probably will continue to be used as a scapegoat throughout the book. So I'm just really finding everything about this to be incredibly interesting. I like Li Du a lot, the main character, and I'm really interested to see how things progress, especially with Li Du and his life and his exile. And then I am going to start The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander soon, but I wanted to sort of listen to something quick that I could get through really easily, and I've been wanting to read Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire for a while, and so I decided to turn that on today, and I'm actually going to go make dinner in a minute when I finish talking to you and listen to some more of it, but I am hoping that I can finish that tonight or tomorrow and then start The New Jim Crow. But I'm listening to Every Heart a Doorway on Scribd, and I am loving it so far. It's so good. Every Heart a Doorway is about children who fall through doors and portals into other places. That's my mom laughing. They fall through portals and doorways into other places like Wonderland and, you know, the underworld and places like that. And each place is perfectly suited for them, which is why they have the portal opened for them. And then they come back to regular life and they have an issue coping with that. So they go to this school, which is run by a former wayward child who understands what they're going through. And then what I am told happens, which the first murder just occurred, is wayward children start getting murdered and are found missing body parts because someone is trying to create the perfect wayward child. I've got a lot of mysteries going on recently. I'm reading Jade, Jagged Mountain, I'm reading Every Heart a Doorway, and I read Shadow of the Wind last week and finished on Monday. So just got a lot of murder and mystery and intrigue happening in my life right now, which I love. But right now I'm going to go make some black bean tacos, and I will talk to you later. Hello, it is currently Sunday. I just finished Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire, and took my headphones out of my phone and turned it around and hit record. Wow, I loved it. It was the perfect blend, the perfect meeting between darkness and gruesomeness and horror and fantasy and joy and whimsy. They exist so perfectly together in Every Heart a Doorway. And I'm currently 178 pages into Jade Dragon Mountain, which is just about halfway. I am really enjoying this book. I just made a fresh cup of coffee, even though it's the afternoon. It's fine. And I am going to go sit in our sunroom and watch the rain, because it's raining today, and see how much of this book I can get read. Hello, welcome to the end of this vlog. I'm going to be as quiet as I can and make sure that you can still hear me. It's Sunday night, I'm about to go to bed, and I just wanted to update you fully on everything that I read this week. So I'm super excited because I actually finished 4 books this week, which is so good for me. I never ever do that. 3 of those books I read in their entirety this week, but 1 I had read the majority of it before this week, which was Stamped from the Beginning, and I talked a bit about that earlier in this vlog, so I'm not going to talk about it now. I also read Prince Caspian. That was one of the short books, and I talked about that as well, so I'm not going to go too much into those or into them at all at this point, because I do have a July wrap-up coming at the end of the month. But I'm going to talk about the 2 books that I finished today, which were Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire and Jade Dragon Mountain by Elsa Hart. So I think primarily because I'm tired tonight and ready to go to bed, but also because I am going to be making wrap-ups at the end of the month, I think I'm going to start giving less complete reviews in my vlogs and start and just include more of my more specific thoughts in my wrap-ups about books. So I want to give you my COPL ratings for both of the books that I finished today. First, Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. I absolutely loved it. It was so good. I read it on audiobook on Scribd, and I'm going to give you my COPL ratings. So characters were 9, atmosphere was 9, writing was 9, plot was 9, intrigue was 9, logic was 8, and enjoyment was 10. I totally loved it, and all of those even out to 5 stars, which I think is definitely deserved. There's something so incredible about the merging, like I said earlier, between darkness and bright, colorful fantasy and bright, colorful imagination that is so perfect and so atmospheric and realistic at the same time. And so I really want to continue the series, as well as read some of Shauna Maguire's other books under her other pen names. But anyway, I gave Every Heart a Doorway 5 stars, and I really loved it. The second book that I finished today was Jade Dragon Mountain by Elsa Hart. I really enjoyed this. I was not sure exactly what I was going to give it in terms of stars, but when I put in my ratings into the COPL spreadsheet, it came out with 4 stars. So those were 8 for characters, atmosphere 9, writing 8, plot 8, intrigue 9, logic 9, and enjoyment 7. I don't know, maybe enjoyment was an 8. I did really enjoy it. I had a bit of trouble remembering who people were and how they were related to the magistrate, who is the most powerful man in the book until the emperor shows up, obviously. But this just had some twists and turns in it for me that I wasn't expecting, that I really enjoyed. I liked Lee Du a lot as a character and an amateur investigator. He's very focused and on a one-track mind. He doesn't really let anything distract him, even when people are trying to distract him from the questions he's asking them. I enjoyed his dynamics with all of the suspects and more peripheral characters. All of those were really fun. The atmosphere was absolutely fantastic. It's centered on, like I said, a Chinese astronomical festival. It's a festival of the eclipse. And so everything was super rich in texture and smell. Elsa Hart uses all of your 5 senses to explain things to you, how they look, how they feel, how they smell, how they sound. And I really, really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed how it ended. I enjoyed the twists and turns towards the end. And so, yeah, 4 stars. It's not like a new all-time favorite, but I really did enjoy it. So anyway, finishing 4 books in 1 week is very uncommon for me, and I'm very happy with the way that my reading went this week. I really hope that you enjoyed this vlog. I hope it was calming. I hope it helped you relax or helped you learn about maybe a new book that you want to read. I hope that you are doing well, and if you're not, I hope that it gets better soon, and I hope you love what you're reading. I'll see you next week.